Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on a session on cloud computing. I'm very excited to be delivering this webinar on behalf of the Department of Employment, Economic Development and Innovation. My name's Yvette Adams and I'm from the Creative Collective, so as you can see we're really excited to be presenting this on behalf of DD. Now there is a Twitter hashtag on the screen right now. If any of you are into Twitter, I would love it if you could go ahead and tell people that you're doing this webinar right now by using that hashtag QLVBiz. If that means absolutely nothing to you, you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, but I do encourage you to get on our Twitter webinar, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, towards later on in the session is what I want to say. Okay, so here's what we've got in store for you guys today. I'm just going to do a quick intro and an orientation around the system, make sure you know how to use the GoToWebinar technology we're using. We'll then spend the most of the time on content, teaching you all about the ins and outs of cloud computing, and finally we'll allow some time for questions at the end. Now it's really important to me that you guys participate today because that's how you'll get the most out of the session. I know many of you are giving up a busy work day or a lunch hour right now, so I want to make this worth your while. So if this is your first time on GoToWebinar, what I need you to see is that the little screen that should have popped up showing you that you're on a live webinar right now, there should be a little red arrow. I want you to click on that red arrow and expand the menu bar if it's not already done. And then I want you to go and next to your name you should be able to see a little hand, and I want you to raise your hand to show me that you can find that functionality, because I'm going to be throughout the presentation asking you guys to raise your hand if that applies to you, indicate yes, etc. And that's my way of knowing that you haven't nodded off on me and that you're very much enjoying the session today. Now one thing I do want you to know as well is that if you don't know how to find the hand like I've just asked you to do, or you're a little bit lost, I encourage you to text chat with my colleague Jag Quimby, who's also on today. He's our facilitator and available to help you with any of your technical queries. So to send a text chat to Jag or myself, expand the chat area and simply type straight into there, just like you would a text message, but you've got a much bigger keyboard, of course, or it's also like MSN or Skype chat. Hands up if you've used those sorts of technologies. Maybe Facebook chat is another one that's quite popular these days. Great, lots of you have. Now I'm noticing there are still a few people who haven't found the hand, so do keep trying and do ask Jag if you're not finding it. Here's another point. When you've raised your hand and the question is over, you've been answered, do click on the hand again just to pop your hand down. We had a lot of cases in our first webinar in this series of people with their hands up that I thought had a question and actually they didn't. So if you could help me out there, that'd be fabulous. So just a really quick introduction. For those of you who don't know me, as I said, my name's Yvette Adams. That's a picture of me, what I'm looking like right now, Sunshine Coast based. And you can see on there I'm an award-winning business owner. I've won multiple local, national and regional business awards, including winning the Commonwealth Bank Business Owner of the Year at the Telstra Businesswomen's Awards in 2010, which is a real highlight of my career. I've started 4 different businesses. The first one was when I was just 17, and I'm just going to make sure that this Skype is gone so you're not putting up with that, excuse me. So yeah, my first business was when I was just 17. Since then I started a fashion business online in 2002, which I later sold 4 years later. And now I've got the Creative Collective being my big focus, which is basically a creative agency. We make websites, we do PR and marketing, we do a lot of social media for clients these days, lots of SEO or search engine optimization, in short, lots of digital marketing topics, which we're very excited to be delivering information about through this DD webinar series. Now we work with all sorts of size businesses, from brand new ones, startups, right through to very large corporates and councils and government agencies. So basically we love helping people, whoever they are, to achieve online success. Now I also really love training and assisting others, so I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to do this with DD and a range of other initiatives. Right now they've got me travelling all over Queensland delivering keynotes around the topic of digital economy, which with the rollout of the NBN or National Broadband Network is certainly a big deal as well. I'm also a mother of 2, aged 5 and 8 years, and I like dropping that in just because I do sympathise with you if you're a parent and a business owner or juggling being a working parent as well. So anyway, enough about me. Let's get into today's content, and I want to tell you all about cloud computing. So could anyone admit if you're on this session tonight, but you don't, or today I should say, but you don't really know what cloud computing is, but you've heard about it, so you just thought you better get some information? Put up your hand if that sort of is where you're at. Okay, yeah, I can see a few hands. Well, good on you for being honest, and I hope that through these webinars, learning in this group format, because we literally have people all over Queensland logging in, you can see that you're not alone trying to grasp these really fast-moving technologies and trends and trying to work out what's best for your business. So how great that you can jump on a 1-hour webinar and just get a really compact bit of information to see if it's for you. So basically, as you can see on the screen, is that cloud computing has actually been around for more than a decade. It's actually not a new thing, which might surprise you, but I do feel like it's been gaining a lot of popularity in more recent years. And the reason I think it's been gaining so much popularity has been things like the natural disasters Queensland's been experiencing, and indeed around the world. How many of you, out of interest, maybe lost some data or had some issues with floods or cyclones in the last 12 months or so, where you may have lost some data? Or maybe just your computer, you know, gave up the ghost, which that happens too. Someone spilled a coffee on it. Any of that stuff can happen to us in business. Well, the fantastic thing about cloud computing is that if any of these unexpected incidences arise, you're still protected because your data is maybe in more than one location, and importantly is on the internet. So provided you can access the internet, you can still access the data. That's basically what cloud computing is. It lives in the cloud or in the ether. You can't see it, but it is there. So you can see on the screen with that little diagram there that the data could be sitting on a PC and then living on the internet too. It could be on your mobile. I mean, think of all the contacts that you have on your mobile. How many of you have backed up your contacts lately onto the internet somewhere should your mobile get stolen or broken or something like that? Maybe that's an action point for some of you because, it's a pretty important thing to do. How many of you do backups and actually back them up online? So not just in a physical hard drive or a server somewhere, but they're backed up on the cloud. Hands up if you're already doing that. That is really something I think all of you should have your hands up to say you're doing, because the fact is you can have a backup hard drive, but they fail sometimes. They get corrupt, they just stop working, they burn out, you lose the cord, all sorts of things can go wrong. And not only that, some people have a second backup. Sometimes, clever them, they have it off-site, but sometimes that fails as well, and then they're really a bit stuck. So I strongly, strongly encourage you through today's presentation to think about what actions you might need to take in regards to cloud computing to cover for some of these situations which unfortunately do arise from time to time. Now let me take you through just how big this cloud computing thing is getting. So I've said in more recent times it's gaining in popularity. Well, you can see that by 2013 they're saying that 10% of the physical servers sold will be virtualized. That means they're going into more of a cloud environment. More and more people are doing their entire workloads online. You can see there on the screen who are the big players in the world with using these online services. There's 50 million physical servers in the world today, and actually Google owns 1 million of them. Isn't that a phenomenal statistic? So people worrying about how much data Google has, yeah, they certainly do have a lot. So you can look on Cloud Hypermarket for some more stats. And basically the situation is in Australia that a lot of our data, it's true, is actually backed up internationally, which is a concern for some because then it's actually governed by the laws of those countries and not by our own. Now a lot of these services providing the ability to back up into the cloud would be crazy to compromise your security or your data in any way because then they wouldn't have your service anymore. So that for a lot of people is their number one concern with going this way, is whether it's safe or not. Would that be the case for any of you? Raise your hand if you're somewhat concerned about how secure this stuff is. Particularly for people who, they're in the legal environment, a medical environment. There's lots of scenarios of certain industries that, with great reason, need to take extra precautions. I can tell you that in Australia there are some moves to get some cloud-based, fully Australian-owned servers into place. I'm not 100% sure of where they're up to, but I have heard murmurs and seen the odd media article of people pushing for that to happen. If anyone knows of any, I'd love you to text those through to me. But I think that's an exciting development, that as business owners here who want to keep our data locally, that's perhaps a good idea. But I'll tell you what we do as a company, we choose to use servers to host websites which actually have backups all over the world. So should there be a tsunami in Japan, let's say our data was there, there's another backup over in America and another one in Europe. So it takes something pretty drastic for all three continents to go down, wouldn't you say? But that's certainly a good idea, is to look into where is this data, if I'm going to put it in the cloud, actually being stored, and how safe is it? Now, a lot of you are probably actually using cloud without even realizing it. Take a look on that screen now and see if you can identify something that you know what it is and you're already using it. And I want you to text chat me with which of those you're using. And if you're very aware that you're using some other service that's not on there but definitely is cloud, drop me a line via text chat now too. I want to see what some of you guys are using. Okay, quite a few are using Facebook. Dell is using Dropbox. Christiana's all over it. She's using Hotmail, Facebook, PayPal, YouTube. Good one. A few of you using Gmail, PayPal, Amazon, SugarSync. So there we go. Just in our small group, a lot of us are using cloud. And I mean, how many of you maybe even didn't realize you're already using that? Here's some stats that you can compare yourself against of who's using cloud. This is also off that Cloud Hypermarket website, which you may like to go to for more information. According to them, 56% of internet users are using now webmail services like Gmail, Hotmail or Yahoo. Now, the traditional way to use email, of course, was to have some kind of a server, maybe attached to your hosting, and many people used a lot of the Microsoft solutions or Exchange, Microsoft Exchange, etc. I'll just tell you, and I'm not saying you should do this, you need to look at the suitability for your company, but we as a company did move to Gmail about 2 or 3 years ago. I was a huge Outlook girl, but I found it a really good transition, and I'll tell you why in just a few more slides. 34% of people are now using online or cloud to store personal photos. I mean, think of how many photos a lot of you probably have on Facebook, and did you know you can do a download and a backup of that data? Because again, it's Facebook, it's pretty secure, but someone can still hack your account. Facebook could go down, and what if all your photos were lost? How would you feel? So there's maybe another action point you may like to write down if you're taking notes. 29% you can see are using online applications like Google Docs and Photoshop Express. Hands up, how many of you are using Google Docs already out of interest? It came up a bit in that list, but I'd like to see a show of hands too. Wow, some of you who aren't using it, I'm going to introduce you to it in more detail in a moment. It's changed my world. Like, I can't emphasize how good I find it personally. 5% pay to store computer files online. Now, that's an interesting point in itself, because there is a lot of places you can store for free, but it depends how much you can store and whether you can share it. So you've got to find a solution for you. Throughout all of this, I'm going to give you ideas of places you could go and look, but I'm not going to suggest to anybody in particular you should use this solution. You may need to do this in consultation with your IT team or an IT professional you work with, or there may be other professionals that you can work with, business coaches, etc., to work out solutions here. 5% are backing up hard drives, as you can see on there. And isn't it interesting that the US government is actually predicting that a lot of their IT spend is going to go online? So this is not just small businesses and businesses in general doing this. Actually, major government agencies around the world are actually looking at cloud solutions these days. I mean, again, traditional would have been to create these elaborate servers that required maintenance and staffing and so on. Times are tight, you know, economic downturn, etc. All businesses and government agencies are looking at ways that they can save, and actually when they find how good some of these solutions are, some of them aren't going back to those old ways. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with an organisation called Gartner. Can you put up your hand if you know of Gartner? Just looking to see how many of you are. Quite a few of you are. Okay, well, Gartner is basically a place that does a lot of research, and they do a lot of predictions about things that are going to happen in the technology space. Now, interestingly, often whatever they predict happens even faster than they could have possibly predicted, because technology and innovation is just moving at such a rate. And it's more important than ever for you as a business owner to do your very best to try and keep up with this stuff. Now you may say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, it's so difficult, and I get that because I'm a small business owner too and I have a lot of hats to wear just like you. But I'll go as far as saying, if you guys don't keep up with this stuff, your business may not survive, or it certainly may not be performing in the way you need it to perform to perhaps enjoy the lifestyle that you seek to live. So it impacts on your personal life too. But look, in regards to cloud, this is what Gartner says, expected to hit 150 billion, the revenue from people offering cloud computing services, expecting that the servers will increase. 3 billion of the world's adult population will be able to transact electronically. That's a phenomenal stat. What we're seeing is, even some quite, underdeveloped countries that previously have not had access to technology, they do. In India, 1 billion plus population, a lot of people have mobile phones there. They are literally running businesses, they are transacting, they're selling online, they're providing services all off a phone, all from a tiny little shanty hut that they live in still a very underdeveloped area. So the whole, I guess, balance of the world's being tipped with this stuff, and it's a bit of a race to get up to date with it and work out what it means to your business to survive. A lot of businesses are saying, as you can see in that second column, that the reason they're moving to cloud is because they need to ensure their business agility. Given that things are changing so fast, they need to be able to move sideways, forwards, backwards, whichever way they need to. And certainly that's a big reason why personally our company moved to that, because in my experience, if you go out and you pay for a product, whilst it might, you may do all your research and you may find it suits you in the initial stages, you may find that in a very short space of time your company needs change. Maybe you get more staff, maybe you have more data than you anticipated to store, or maybe you need to do more with it, offer different services because your service or product range has changed. The thing is with these customized solutions or off-the-shelf solutions is they are what they are. They don't always change. That's why I'm such a big fan of using a cloud-based solution. I get a package that suits me at that time. Often you can just upgrade the package, so as you use it more, you just pay more. And if you find it's not working for you, you just go out and get another one. There's no loyalty anymore. You're paying month to month. And that's certainly what I'd recommend if you want to look to make a transition to these types of things. I wouldn't suggest signing up for the 12 months ahead. Download look at the free trial for a month, or pay the minimal monthly fee for a few months to see if it works for you, transfer some data, see if you can get your staff using it, and then commit to it from there. I'm pretty sure once you try it, you'll know if it's working. Okay, so here's some more benefits of operating in the cloud, and I promise you I will give you some cloud solutions that I use and love and why in just a moment, but I want you to understand these things too first. So one is you don't necessarily need desktop software if we start round at the left. Now that's changing things as well, because previously, companies like Microsoft had a massive hold on the market. You pretty much as a business owner had to go out and buy them. When they updated versions, you had to go and update it. How many problems did that cause? But literally it is possible to run a business now without going and buying all those expensive softwares if you don't want to. Some people find they would prefer it that way, and that's fine. Again, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I am saying it is possible if you don't want to look at that. So if you're a startup business or very small business and you're just trying to keep your costs down, or maybe you were looking to upgrade to the next version and you're wondering if there might be another way, I can tell you there is, so do take a good look at it. As I said, you don't need to upgrade your software like you did previously, whether it's an accounting solution or something else as well. We used to have to get the new version. The files aren't stored on your computer. I think that's a huge one. There were cases when the Brisbane floods hit that businesses had their entire servers in the car park. Well, being low-lying, guess what got flooded first? It was the car park. And unfortunately, a lot of them did not have a virtual service. If they had they could have literally just left Brisbane and maybe flown to Melbourne or somewhere that was dry and started working the very next day. I know that if for any reason my computer dies, or actually recently I did have a computer laptop stolen from my hotel room on the Gold Coast. It was fine. I went and stayed with a friend. I used her laptop and I could do every aspect of my business because it was all virtual. All my files, all my accounts, all my emails, everything I needed to run my business was online. So that saved me, really did. All you need is an internet connection, so you can go to a friend's, like I said, you could even go to an internet cafe, you can even sit on your phone these days if you've got a smartphone and run your business. So how cool is that? We've got lifestyle now, guys, if we want it. Hands up how many of you do have a smartphone and you do use it to run your business often out and about. Raise your hands if that's you. Yeah, it's certainly me. I love it. Love that fact about cloud computing. I also really like that last one around the corner, which is the ability to collaborate on work. How many of you have had the scenario where you create a document, you forward it on to someone, they send it back, you start working on it, they say, no, sorry, that was the wrong version. Hands up if you've had the scenario and you realise you're all double handling and it's a bit of a nightmare. The cool thing with some of these cloud computing solutions I'm going to show you in a moment, you can both work on them live real time. So there's only ever one document. There's no need to email it around, try and find it in your email. It's right there. And, you know, it's a different way of working, but once you get the hang of it, gee, it is so much better and you'll wonder how you ever used to do it other ways. So actually, just on that, hands up if you can see something on there that you reckon would be a good benefit to your business and a good reason to take a good look at cloud computing. One of those benefits looking good to you? Yeah, plenty of hands going up. Doesn't surprise me. Another way I use to explain this whole cloud computing concept is it's kind of like renting versus buying a house. And I often go back to houses because we all live in them and some of us own them and rent them and so on. So it's something we can relate to. So if you are going to rent something, that's kind of like using these cloud solutions because you can get something, like I said, that suits you now, but you can change relatively easily. Now look, there is a transition period, but a lot of them will allow you to download or export data and then re-import it. Some of them actually even allow you to talk to different systems just through a thing called an API key. So it isn't such a big deal as creating a whole new system. Now you don't own it, but you do get to benefit from the space, just like if you're renting a house. That's how cloud computing solutions often work. And the other cool thing is that I really, really like is someone else takes care of the upgrades, the extensions, the storage, the security. So, you know, as a small business owner, we're not big enough to have an IT person. And we're fortunately, because I do have Jag on the team, don't need even an IT company that we call on from time to time. Pretty much we use software that they look after the security. They make sure it's keeping innovated. For instance, we use a system for hosting our websites, and when social media, you know, is doing stuff, they start including social media integrations as part of the package. We don't have to come up with that. We don't have to get it built. We don't have to make it happen, which for me is awesome. And we don't have to worry about, like I said, hackers and things. We just keep operating the business and doing what we're doing, being much more efficient. So if you've got an IT person, you're not sure, you know, how much work they have or whether it's necessary and you're trying to cut costs in some shape or form in your business. This is not true for everybody, by the way, again. Some of you might absolutely need that person in your team for one reason or another, but look, I'm just giving you options again. Now look at the right-hand side, the buying option. So you can go out and buy great solutions, but you often pay the price to do so. You know, I've heard businesses paying 5 and 6 figures for some, you know, amazing CRM or client relationship manager or database system or website system or something like that because they really wanted it customized. Often, from my point of view, they haven't always researched because you can often customize some of the existing systems out there. They'll give you a good head start. The other thing about buying is just like a house, you sometimes don't really know if it's going to be right for you until you live there. So you might have bought it outright, you think it's right, you've done your research, you start using it, you go, you know what, this just isn't the bee's knees that we thought it was. It's hard to move on to if your needs change. I mean, I was talking to a magazine recently and they've invested a heap of money into the CRM, but it doesn't really work for them. But, you know, because they've spent about $10,000 on it, they're really loath to move on. So we're having a lot of discussions at the moment because I'm really sympathetic to the fact they've invested all that money, but we're having discussions around how much business are we actually losing from it not being effective for our needs, from it taking too long to work on, from staff not being able to use it because it's just too complicated, and maybe they are just going to have to draw a line in the sand and move on, as hard as that may be. The other thing to know is you're going to be responsible for updates. So for example, there are cloud-based website systems that are free or very, very cheap, but a lot of people don't realize you're going to have to upgrade the versions, you're going to have to make sure they don't get hacked and security things are in place, you're going to have to make sure the right modules and plugins are happening. If you're not that type of person, that doesn't excite you, you don't know much about it, you really don't want to go down that road, then beware of buying into those sorts of systems. Hands up how many of you do buy software outright at the moment, and you do lean towards that way. So Roy does, Pete does, Nicole does, Sarah. So quite a few of us do. Some of us are probably a bit of a mix right now. And so, look, you might not want to go all cloud all at once either. You might sort of look at where your biggest inefficiencies are in your company. So if, let's say, you know that the accounts person is spending ages and ages on the accounting, where maybe there could be an online system that sucks in all the data from the bank that just needs to be a little bit recoded rather than totally enter everything in, maybe that for you is where you should start. Priority order on where the biggest inefficiencies are would be my suggestion. Here's some other reasons why people are moving to cloud. Is a direct open communication. Communication's a big one with cloud because previously we've had text and we've had email, which may be offline or online, but things like social media and video streaming can also be on the cloud too. So we're seeing people communicating things like policies and procedures by hosting them online, perhaps dropping a quick social media text chat or a message rather than sending in a whole email, and getting some pretty good results from that. Diversification. Often we're seeing now more and more employees running laptops and plugging into corporate systems. It could be more efficient. It may mean that your company gets more out of your staff. I know for one that our personal company policy is that when a staff member starts is to, ask them whether they prefer a laptop or a PC, and a Mac or a PC and a laptop, or a hard, a hard drive. Many of them go for laptops, and that's worked really well for us. Simplifying processes, I meet companies and they, go through sort of 3 rounds of paperwork to achieve one thing, and I just think, gosh, that's crazy. If it is worth taking the time to map out what it is you do, what your workflows are, and to really think outside the square. You can get professionals to come in and help you workshop the stuff, something we really love doing with companies, and saying, what would your world look like if you didn't have to do it that way? So sometimes people are so caught in that rut, they can't see it any differently, but if you can actually make them understand technology might exist to achieve this, is it worth investing in? And often it really is. Globalization is another factor because people are having customers further afield. They're not just local, they may be interstate or even international now. And to service them, you may need online systems that have perhaps multiple currencies and things. Collaborating, we for one, we have team members in Melbourne and New Zealand in different locations, and if we didn't have these cloud solutions, it would be very difficult for me to manage them all. The economy is also driving this as well. So I guess if you are looking at whether you want to go into the cloud, you need to think about these sorts of things. Reliability, how important is that to you? Because they're not perfect all of the time, but then I bet neither is your current situation either. And in fact, in my experience, often when people are using offline solutions and having IT support teams, etc., they go down just as much, if not sometimes more, than some of the online solutions. Look at your growth and what stage you're at. How many of you would consider that you're in a fast growth phase of your business? Maybe you're in early days, or you're just, experiencing really good demand for your products or services right now. Hands up if that's you. So if that's you, I would suggest that cloud is really well worth looking at, because it's hard if you're in a fast growth phase to anticipate what's next and what you may need. So if you go for these systems, you can then, like I said, upgrade the solution or move to another one as your needs change, because sometimes it's very hard to know what the end goal is. Whilst you might set targets and things, sometimes you just don't know what path destiny's going to take you on, so to speak. Privacy down in the bottom. Hands up how many of you do regard yourselves as dealing with highly sensitive data. Maybe you're in the medical field, legal, like I said, and having that very secure is very important to you. So I guess write down on the screen, and remember there's a workbook too. So a workbook was made available to you pre-webinar, still there post-webinar, and in that we encourage you to go through a range of exercises to come up with something of an action plan so that you can plan how to make cloud computing happen in your organisation and what you should do first. these are the types of things we'll get you to go through in a more defined detail. Security, are you a potential target for a hacking? I guess everybody potentially is, but some of you maybe more so than others. Maybe you're in a particularly competitive environment. Maybe you've had incidences before. All of these things would be reason to consider yourself needing to have a really secure environment. What are your current resources? So look at that. And what are your current needs? Are you trying to increase productivity? Are you trying to be more financially sustainable? Do you need to market more? Do you need to start handling client data better and making sure that you're actually maximising any interactions you have? And then also it comes down to budget as well, because like I said, a lot of them are a monthly fee. Some of them not nearly as much as you may think, and others are a lot more. All right, so now let's look at just a few of the solutions. Now, these are by no means all of the solutions available to you, but there's certainly ones that I'd encourage you to take a look at and just be aware of are out there, and maybe look for similar functionality in some of the others. So the first one is Google Apps. How many of you guys are using Google Apps in some shape or form? So Gmail or Google Docs. I know when we did that text chat, quite a few of you were. Yeah, lots of you. So Google Apps are awesome, I think. We moved to Google Apps, I think, about 2 years ago. It was a bit of a transition. There were some teething problems, I won't lie to you. But now, like I said, I couldn't imagine life without it. Now, the first one of the Google Apps I want to go through, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but I will go through the ones I think are the most commonly possibly applicable to business owners. The first one is Gmail or Google Mail. Now, the really good thing about this is the amount of storage you get. I don't know about you, but I get so many emails, and I used to find when I was on Outlook that about every 3 to 4 months I would have to completely archive the file and start again because there was that much data sitting in there. We deal with a lot of big files, but I also get a lot of emails. I love the fact I could move to Gmail and have 25 gigabytes per employee, so I don't have to worry about this archiving thing, and Google are backing it up for me, which is great. Now, I will admit, I don't deal with particularly sensitive data, so that wasn't such a big deal for me. If it is for you and you're looking at the suitability, look into the information Google makes available in regards to its security, but I can tell you that there are government agencies, there are schools, there are all sorts of organisations, particularly in America, that absolutely use Gmail as their email solution. The second point on that I love about it is its spam filter. I used to find I get far more junk mail, spam mail when I used Outlook than I do with Gmail. I find it just pulls a whole lot out. You've got a built-in instant messaging. You've got a voice and video chat if people are on Gtalk, which is Google's, I guess, version of Skype. You can label things, so if you like to file items off into boxes and so on, like you perhaps do in Outlook, you can absolutely do that in Gmail. You can turn an email into a Google Doc. You can work in it offline. Works on your phone, so I always get my emails. And here's the big kicker, the last one. A lot of people don't realise that if you have a Gmail account, you can actually run your company through it. So when we send emails, it's at thecreativecollective.com.au. It's actually going by our Gmail, but you wouldn't know it. So it's not coming from Gmail. So does that look like something that some of you might look into, its suitability? Put your hands up if maybe Gmail could be a good one to look at. I mean, as a company that offers web solutions, we have clients quite often calling us saying, oh, my email's buggered up, is something happening at your end? And almost every time, it's not at our end, it's actually at theirs, and it's because they haven't been deleting items, deleting sent items, and deleting the deleted items, and there's too much bloat sitting on their server. If they'd actually moved to Google, which we've been suggesting a lot of them do, they just wouldn't even experience those issues anymore. So that's what Google Gmail looks like. You can customize the background, so you can see there I've got a water feature if you like things to look pretty like I do. Down here I've filed things off. You can see you can manage different accounts too. So if you've got multiple email accounts, maybe your personal, maybe your work, maybe an organisation, let's say an industry association you represent, they can all be coming into this one inbox and you can handle things in priority order. You can also star them, so if I see something that I need to do something with, there's an action point, I give it a little star. And it also helps you over time. If you tell them what is important by clicking on the plus, it will start to categorize your emails better, bringing the important stuff to the top and leaving the not so important down the bottom, which you can say, this isn't that important, just put a little minus next to it. So it's all in all pretty handy stuff. Oh, by the way, there's also a bunch of what you call add-ons, which if you go into a thing called Google Labs, you can download. I'll tell you a couple of my favorite add-ons. They are Rapportive, Rapportive. That allows you to see on the right-hand side when someone emails you all their social media accounts. It'll show you whether they're on Twitter or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. It'll show you their most recent tweets or Facebook status updates. And I find that gives me a real head start when I'm dealing with someone. One, I can grow my social networks, but two, I can see what is big in their world and say, hey, Ozzy, you've just been on a holiday, when I send them an email, which just helps build that relationship so much better. There's a bunch of other cool things you can do in Google Labs. Just go into Google Labs and add on the ones that you think will work for your business would be my suggestion. Okay, moving on. Google Calendar. How many of you use Google Calendar already, out of interest? Hands up. Don't go to sleep on me. Okay, a few of you do. All right, second question. How many of you manage a team or work with multiple contractors that you need to diarise, keep tabs on, know where they're at? Any of you doing that? Okay, well, me too. I've got a bunch of contractors, and when I'm giving them a job, I need to know whether they're available. Are they on holiday? Are they going to be at a doctor's appointment, or just are they available? So Google Calendar allows me to see the whole company's diaries, what they make available. So sure, if they've got a doctor's appointment, they don't need to tell me that that's what it is, but it'll be blocked out in their diary as busy. I can have multiple calendars, because if you are a working parent and you're trying to manage the school runs and the school holidays and the soccer and all that sort of stuff, I find that works in really well for me to have a calendar with all my kids' stuff and then all of my stuff as well. I can view calendars that belong to other people. So for instance, I'm fortunate enough to have a nanny. She puts in there all her uni dates, and I can see if she's available or not, and if I'm about to ask her to do a date for me, without even asking her, I can see, no, that's probably not going to work because she's busy. And you can invite people to come to your appointment just like you can in Outlook, and I find that a wonderful system, because rather than suggest to them that you have a coffee on email and then they get the date wrong or the time wrong or the place wrong, you can do a lot of mucking around, and it can take like 6 emails just to schedule an appointment sometimes. So what I do is I go into Google Calendar and I add the appointment the moment we've talked about it, and I send them an invite. If they click accept, they have no excuse. They know the date, they know the time, they know what it's about. Now, some of you are really dead set on staying with Outlook. You actually can run this calendar with your Outlook. So for a while there, when we did a transition, we ran it across both. So it syncs. You can do it syncing from Google Calendar to your Outlook one way. You can do it from Outlook to your Google Calendar. We can do it both ways. And you can add your phone in there too. So I have a BlackBerry. I make it sync with my Google Calendar. So if I'm out and about and someone says, hey, let's meet up, I can simply just pop that appointment in there and know it will populate at the other end, and my team will know that I've got an appointment. Is that some cool functionality that some of you might find useful? Yep, some of you? Great. Well, here's what Google Calendar looks like. So it's a nice, easy interface. You can click here and create an event. You can add calendars in here as well. And you can search your own. Now, you can make your calendar public or private. So here's an example when you might like to make it public. Let's say you are an osteopath or some other health practitioner. You might like to create a calendar, make it so that the appointments don't show who they are, because that's your client data. You wouldn't want to share that. But you could certainly show when you're free and when you're busy. Now, you'd have to manage this carefully and make sure you put lunch hours in and any time off you wanted. But apart from that, you can actually then take that calendar and embed it or insert it onto your website or make it public. So if people are searching around on Google and they're looking for an osteopath that's available, your calendar might turn up and they can see that, hey, on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I can get into that guy and he's in my area. How handy is that? I actually think businesses are crazy not to use this system, especially if they're a service-based industry and they want more business. Sure, some of them would use a separate system, and it's important that they talk to each other, but this is free, so if you've got nothing and you want to start somewhere, it'd be good to take a look at Google Calendar. Here's an example of what my calendar looks like. You can see you can color code. So on here I'm orange, another team member's green, another one's blue. So I can see at any one time who's available, what they're working on, and what's going on. And like I said, rather than calling them to see if they're available or emailing them, I find that works for me so much better. Okay, Google Docs. Now some of you did say that you've been using Google Docs. So you can actually do most things in Google Docs that you can do in Microsoft. So is it goodbye to it? Well, that's up to you to decide. I can tell you inside Google Docs, just like the Microsoft packages, you can create documents like Word docs. You can create spreadsheets like Excel, and you can create presentations like PowerPoint. They've even got a thing though where you can create forms and collate responses easily. So rather than running your next survey on a piece of paper that you get people to fill in and submit back, or I know there is SurveyMonkey too, but if it's a form and you want to grab data and you want it to enter directly into a spreadsheet that you can analyze, how about using a Google form? Here's an example. We're currently analysing our contractors and making sure that we're compliant with all the current ATO legislation in terms of the hours they work and whether they've got appropriate insurances in place, etc. It's an annual audit we do just to make sure we're being diligent. We've created a Google form. We've distributed that as a link to our contractors via Gmail, and they're clicking on that, providing their details, and we can look at that spreadsheet at any of those people and see where they're at. Now that saves a lot of mucking around and rekeying. They're entering the data for us. So it does again take a mindset shift. You've got to think, when is this going to suit me? But next time you're trying to get data from clients, rather than get them to fill out a bit of paper, maybe it's a new appointment form. How about having an iPad or a computer at the front of your waiting room where they can just complete the form, and then you're not going to have to rekey it into a system. It's already there. Who does that sound good to? Saving ourselves some unnecessary work. It's always good to save on that, right? Okay, so with your Google Docs, you can put them into folders just like you can on a hard drive, and here's the big difference. You can share and collaborate with others. So let's say I want to share that form with one other team member, I can. Let's say I want to share it with all of the team members, I can. So they won't see all my documents, only I will see them if I log in with my username and password, which I protect very carefully and change regularly too, by the way. But they can log in at any time and work on those documents if I want them to. So right now I've got a work experience student in here, for example, working on a range of stuff for me. Just yesterday, she was looking for some venues around Queensland that might be suitable for us to run some training sessions from. She's created a Google spreadsheet and she shared that with me. So last night I logged on and saw her work, and there it is all there ready for me to start working on and adding to or putting comments in. The other thing you guys might really like is the fact it's got autosave. How many of you have lost data because you forgot to save it, or the computer died and it wasn't saved? It's just heartbreaking when that happens, isn't it? So how good is Google Docs? It just keeps on saving. You never have to save, and I love that function as well. So let's have a look at what Google Docs looks like. Here's an example of our view, and you can see I've got different folders for different things I'm working on. And you can see the little green things is like spreadsheets, the little blue is a document, and star. So you can see that I've shared these docs with just about all sorts of people. I can move this down. You can see when it was last viewed by me, last modified by me. So you can see where the staff are working on it. So rather than saying to a staff member, hey, have you worked on the such and such report? You can log in and see, oh yeah, they were working on it at 1 o'clock today. Great, they must be getting somewhere with that. And in fact, we actually use it when we're having team meetings. We have a spreadsheet. We have our agenda up there. We have a performance spreadsheet up there. So everyone logs in from all over and they can all see what we're doing and add to that as a live document. How cool is that? No need to email it around, gloss files, version control, etc. I absolutely love it for that. Who thinks that Google Docs could be worth looking into for their business? A few hands going up, great. Well, that's exactly what today is all about. I'm so pleased to see that. Here's how easy it looks. If you're thinking, I'm not that techie, I don't know if I can learn a whole new program, well, you really don't need to. Google Docs is just like Microsoft Word in lots of ways. The interface looks very similar. So you can see there's a file menu, an edit menu. There's a bold, there's an underline. You can change the font. I will tell you, you can't do as high-level design as you can on Word. Now, even Word is not great if you want to really make something look pretty. What I would suggest you do is if you want to just get the data down and you want to collaborate, get different people contributing to the document, do it in Google Docs. And then when you want to put the final pretty touches to it to make it look nice, move it off into maybe Microsoft or another program and, do your pretty cover pages and footers and things like that. So really good for the grunt work, if you know what I mean. Here's a bunch of storage, backup, and file sharing systems you may like to look at. How many of you can see something on there you're using? I know Dropbox came through in the last lot. I'd love you to text chat through which one of these you're using. I'm curious to know if Dropbox is the one that is still very popular or not. Dropbox, wow, really popular. iCloud, Mozzie, yeah, iCloud's pretty popular for the Mac users. Now I can see some of you are asking questions throughout the presentation, so I want to remind you that I'll be answering those at the end of the presentation. So I'll go through the list I have here and everyone else will have the chance to ask questions too, and it's worth doing it that way because sometimes I might cover it off anyway. So look, to go through these, and good to see so many of you are using them. I won't spend too long on this then. Basically, it's a good idea, like I've talked about at the start, to have your data backed up online somewhere so that if something happens, you're safe. So when I'm collaborating on whether it's creating this presentation or something else, I'll often put it on Dropbox and have other team members work on it with me. Now, I could also do that on Google Docs, but if you want to keep it as a Microsoft Word file or something else, a PDF, you might prefer to put it on Dropbox if it's that version you want to keep. Now, iDrive is a good one to look at, particularly if you're not backing up heaps and heaps of files. What that system can do at very affordable rates is at a nominated time, daily, weekly, whatever you want, it will back up your data. So we used to set it for 6 o'clock Fridays when we walked out the door, that it would just start sucking up our files off our hard drives and we knew it was backed up. Not on a hard drive that could get stolen, lost, damaged, but actually online where it was nice and safe. These others on here are very similar to Dropbox in functionality. They're basically a place to store, backup, and share files. And I suggest all of you do have a solution you use and that you start thinking about the really key documents that you might need to bring over. You know, your Australian business registration certificates, your insurance certificates. These sorts of things really come into their own when there's a disaster that strikes that you just weren't expecting. You've already got that data easily accessed online and safe, you will have a much easier time of it at that point in time. Okay, better move along. Gosh, this session's going fast. All right, as business owners, we all need to keep our books in good order too for the ATO and for just to know how we're tracking in terms of our performance. Here's a bunch of solutions online. Let me take you through some of them quickly. Actually, you tell me, which ones are you guys already using? Drop me a line, a text chat if you're using one of these. Xero, someone said. Live accounts. So live accounts is, of course, the MyOb solution that went online, and then QuickBooks put one out. The reason they put them out was because Xero came along, and it was an online solution. So unlike MyOb and QuickBooks, which used to have the market share, a massive market share, they are basically programs that you buy, you install, and you work on your computer. Then come, say, BAS time or tax time, you have to zip that file off and send it off. You can't touch the files until you get that back. Sometimes the accountant can lose it, corrupt it, all sorts of things can go wrong. That's why I much prefer using these online solutions. Xero came along and made it a really easy interface because a lot of people have to go and do a course to learn MyOb. Xero is very intuitive on the other hand. It was created out of New Zealand and lets you attach to your bank transactions and feed in data. So a lot of people are finding it useful on that front. So that's why MyOb came out with live accounts, and that's why QuickBooks came out, because they knew they were losing market share to Xero. Xero have actually just been going around the country running some free road shows if you're interested in checking out that technology. But I'm sure if you're already on MyOb, they'd be more than happy to talk to you about their live accounts, as would QuickBooks. Just to tell you, there's some others that exist out there, and there's many more that aren't on the screen, but Sasu at the top here is really good if you're managing inventory. So if you're, say, selling items online, you can connect Sasu to your website so that not only do you transact and sell the item and maybe it removes from your inventory on your website system if you've got a good one, it'll actually also make those notes in Sasu and do the accounting. So I know, for instance, a woman based in Cleveland who is a one-person business, but it has a very successful online business selling a range of children's music and toys around sort of cultural topics. And what she does is has an online solution that allows it to come off the website and come off the account system, saving her hours and hours of re-entering. Who does that sound like a good solution for? Any of you managing product and inventory that you'd like to take a look at something like that? Great. Well, just know, that's what today's all about. These things exist. Stop doing it the long, hard way and invest a bit of time and energy into these, and you know what, you might save a heap of money. FreshBooks is also what we choose to use. So we use a combination of Xero and FreshBooks personally. What we use FreshBooks for is to raise our estimates and to issue invoices. We then suck those invoices into Xero. The only reason being is that FreshBooks is a Canadian software, doesn't allow you to fulfill ATO and BAS requirements, but it has got some other functionality that we wouldn't give up, so is why we stay on it and pay for Xero as well. For instance, it follows up our clients automatically, which we find keeps our debt right down, which is great. And it also allows us to manage all incoming invoices from contractors. So rather than getting random emails at random times from random people, we streamline it a lot coming through FreshBooks, which we find wonderful. Now, there's lots of other systems that might suit you to have in the cloud that I haven't got time to cover today. You might like a project management system or a client relationship management system that allows you to track the interactions you're having with your clients, when you last emailed them, what phone calls you've had, what they were in the market for, and when you're going to follow them up, for instance. Company Wiki, where you store all your procedures and policies so that you can go on a holiday and leave your staff to look on there and know what to do and when to do it. To be able to get help from a work experience person or a virtual assistant on an ad hoc basis by having those procedures step by step ready to go. A content management system so you can log into your website and work on it anytime, anywhere. Add a new product, remove a sale because you've sold out or whatever. Then there's all the communication systems. There really is a lot of great systems in the cloud that I would just strongly encourage you to have a look at. Having said that though, I will say cloud is not for everyone because data is offshore. We've talked about that, so you've got to decide whether that's for you. It's still relatively new in the number of people using it, and so you've got to consider if you're ready to jump in now or keep an eye on it. Biggest thing is, I think you can see there's a lot of benefits, is just to do your due diligence like you would any other major business decision. So work out, if you're going to use a certain one, where is the data stored? What recovery plans do they have? How many others use it? Make sure you've got a company policy in place too around that cloud solution. So, for instance, if your staff have access to a system in order to do their job, if they leave, you've got to make sure you remove their rights to that. It might mean just changing a password, or it might mean removing them as a user from the system. But you get slack on that and you could lose some intellectual property or IP. Now, the Australian government has actually put out a whole strategic paper about all of this stuff and what their spin is on it, and you can go to this link right here if you'd like to take a look on the finance.gov.au site. Just a couple more slides and I'll open it up for questions. I want to let you know that you do need to still have backups for the backup. Look, last year, 0.02% of all Gmail users lost their accounts. They did get it back up and running, but it did happen. So I'm not saying they're perfect either. Also, Google Docs had an issue 2009. Like I said, it's not in their interest for them to have these issues, but the bigger they get, more clients they have, these things are possible. Also, in April last year, I don't know if any of you were affected by Amazon, which is one of the world's biggest servers too, where a lot of big companies like Reddit, Hootsuite, Foursquare, Quora, I don't know if any of you use those services, had issues. We couldn't work out why. We couldn't use Hootsuite, and then we discovered on the networks that Amazon was down, so that made complete sense to us. So what I'm trying to say here is these solutions, stuff still can happen. So can you operate your business if it went down? You always need to have a plan A, B, C, and even a D. Do you like that little little thing in the bottom left there, that little cartoon I got for you guys? That they back up their data on sticky notes because they never go down. I had a staff member who loved her sticky notes. They were everywhere. Okay, look, in summary, here's the cloud computing issues I want you to think about. 1, consider your business needs. What processes or functions in your business do you have that you need to improve, streamline, save money on, increase efficiency? Then what is your budget and what resources do you have? Consider whether cloud computing is right for your business. Maybe it's not, maybe it isn't now, maybe it will be later. Think about how you're going to make that transition process, and you will need to block out time in your diary to talk with IT professionals or work as a team to move data, perhaps export data, test it, etc. Look into the different systems you're looking to use and make sure that you do still have backups. All right, guys, you've been very patient with me, so now I'd like to open it for questions. I can see there are a few questions already there on the text chat. Your 2 options for asking questions are either to place your hand up and I'll unmute you and we can have a live chat, which I'd love to do, or I can go through this text chat list and you can send me little questions via text chat, whatever you prefer. So right now I'm going to work my way down the list, and if you've got your hand up, I'm going to unmute it and see what you've got to say. So if you don't intend to ask a question, make sure you put your hand down now. Okay, Mark Melrose has his hand up. Hey, Mark. Mark, have you got your microphone on and ready to chat? Not getting any sound back from Mark. Maybe we'll try Marsha instead. Marsha Baker, are you there? Hello, Marsha. You've got your hand up, Marsha. Nope, she didn't mean to. She's put it down. How about Michelle Nichols? Your hand is also up. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Yvette. I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, do you know if Xero does payroll as well?
It doesn't do payroll, but they do have systems that work in with it. So you basically go to their site and then they've got an add-on section and they list a bunch of products which work in with them. To be honest, because my accounts girl does it for me, I know we use I think it might be web payroll or something. It's about $25 a month and it works in with Xero.
Excellent. The second question is, can you choose which country the info is stored in?
No, you can't generally. What I would do if you're looking into a company, and good question, is to look into their information pages, and if it's not clear to you where the information is stored, to inquire with them and say, you know, I'm interested in your product, but I'd like to know where your information is stored. If they're talking about it being stored on, you know, the Amazon servers and things like that, they're pretty secure. They can go down like I've showed you, but so can your other servers, so I'd feel quite comfortable using those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your questions. Mick Lukowski. Hey, Mick.
Hi.
Hi. Did you have a question for me?
Yeah, it's about Gmail.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, and the first question is, if you use Gmail, does it mean that in order then to look at your emails, you have to be connected to the internet?
In order to look at Gmail, yes, you do need to access the internet, though they do have an offline mode. I haven't used it, but my understanding of how it works is that you can kind of download your email, not be connected to the internet, and look at the old stuff and not send it. So you could basically queue up a number of replies if you like, or queue up a number of new messages, and then when you're next online, they will go out. Does that make sense?
Okay, and does that, I know you were saying that that really you should still back up your own data, but that essentially if you use Google Mail, then they do back up your email, so you don't really have to worry too much about backup and restore of your own emails.
That's right. I mean, one, they just allow you so much storage space, 25 gigabytes. So I find, and this is another benefit I didn't even mention before, I can pretty much just keep my emails without deleting them, which is great. And if I need to retrieve something from time gone by, I simply search. And if one thing Google is good at, they're good at search. And I find the email, if you search by name or date or anything, it comes up very quickly. So yeah, really, really good system in that regard.
Okay, thanks for that, Yvette.
You're welcome. Okay, how about you, Nola Miller? You've got your hand up as well. Are you there, Nola? If for any reason I can't hear your question, your mics might not be configured, so feel free to drop a line. Okay, how about you, Ray Partridge? Did you have a question?
No, no question from me, sorry.
Okay, no problems. And Robin Jenkinson, did you have a question?
No.
No, okay. I'll now revert to the text questions, and please, if you can stay with us, please do. I've just got a couple of quick announcements after this. I do realise we're just a little bit over time. What that person's left, so I won't answer that. Christina Kilbert. Okay, Sarah Spencer Matthews asked, re multiple calendars. When you have the embedded public calendar on your website for confidential health appointments, you mentioned that you keep the names blank, obviously, but do you have the client's name in your own diary, or do you need to enter appointments again with the client's name for your own diary? Good question, Sarah. How this works is, yes, at your end you can see the client name so you can administrate your business, but at the other end it just shows busy. So it's a setting in Google Calendar. You should just carefully test that and make sure you look at it from both ends to make sure it's displaying just how you want it, but it absolutely has that functionality. Hope that answers. Sarah Spencer Matthews says, what does under their jurisdiction mean? Is there a list of questions to ask when getting data stored on the cloud? Missed the website address to get further info. Can you repost? Look, all of the slides and all of this presentation are actually transcribed and made available post-event. Usually takes us a couple of weeks to prepare it, but you can go to a website I'll show you in a moment if you want to get access to any of the presentation slides, links, etc. Okay. Right, Cheryl Springer says, we use Microsoft Exchange Calendar and a global calendar for all service appointments. This calendar will not import into staff iPhones. That's right, Cheryl. As far as I know, Microsoft unfortunately haven't innovated, but, you know, do talk to an iPhone expert or a Microsoft expert, which I'm definitely not, to work out if maybe there is an app that will make that happen. If there's not, maybe you do need to look at Google or some of these other solutions, because the staff being able to see their appointments for the next day or, you know, when they get back from lunch is a pretty awesome functionality. Sue Ann Coley has added, and it's a great contribution, thanks Sue Ann, Xero has bought PayCycle, so Xero will include full payroll in just a few months. That's exciting news. Andrew Rogerson, yes, that he also contributed that. Thank you for letting us know the same thing. That's great. How many people can work on the same doc online before it starts lagging? Karen Fanges. Do you know what? I've never tried that out. I mean, we've had maybe 10 on there and it's not been an issue. Typically, people aren't all working on it at the same time, but if for any reason you did have that, I don't know, give it a test run. I'm not 100% sure. The other thing you could look up would be Google Docs Help. They might have an indication on there. May well have something to do with the amount of internet or the good strength of the internet different people are using, because Google's pretty robust in itself. Okay, Erin says you use email, but does it show as Gmail or do they redirect? No, my emails don't show as Gmail. All my emails show as at my company name, so you absolutely can use Gmail and still have a nice professional front. What are the fees and charges for backing up with various companies, says Vanessa Bagley. Well, Vanessa, they vary greatly from company to company. So the two places I encourage you to look at when investigating new software is the features page, where they list what the thing actually does, and the pricing page. Often they offer free trials for a month, and then often they'll have small packages for small businesses with small requirements, and it goes upwards depending on your requirements. So just look into some of the solutions I've given you to see which one may suit you. Paul McGuinness has said, how does the Microsoft Cloud compare to Google? Good question, Paul. I don't use Microsoft Cloud, so I'm not sure. I think that question would be best directed to a Microsoft rep or IT person. So Ann Coley says, if Cheryl's using Microsoft Exchange, it can work with iPhone. I'm happy to email her because I was so excited to do it myself. So there you go, Cheryl. It is possible. You've just got to have the right person or expertise to look at it. And someone, Amanda, this will be the last question. I've heard that maybe some of the accounting programs will bring in charges for every time you access the site. I haven't heard that, Amanda, and I don't know why they would bring it in because I think they'd lose a lot of customers if they did that. They might, as a new business model, nothing's stopping them. You are at their peril if you're using their software, but I think it would be too much backlash, would be my opinion, that they wouldn't do that. Most of them earn plenty of money just by charging a monthly fee to access the site. Wow, great questions, guys, and lots of them. Thanks so much for joining me today. Now, don't go away. I want to just tell you a couple of last things. If you've enjoyed today and you want more of this stuff, more digital marketing topics, more how to make your business succeed, here's a big long list of stuff coming up. Facebook on Thursday, we've actually just closed today. So if you're not already registered for that, please be aware that has been fully subscribed to. As it was so popular, we may well add another one down the track. So watch out for it. But even if you're not on it, don't worry. You can still get the recordings and the slides and the transcriptions post-event. So look out for those on the website. I'll show you in just a moment. LinkedIn, Twitter, there's still room on all of those. So they're all at lunchtime. I'd love you to join us. Go to business.qld.gov.au. Down the bottom of the right-hand side is where you can click and register for these webinars. Now, help is available. You can go to business.qld.gov.au for anything, any help you need in business. This site is huge. Apart from listing webinars, you can find out how to get money in terms of funding and grants, business plan templates, financial plan templates. This should absolutely be your first port of call. It's the Queensland Government. They put out quality information and resources. Do go and have a look there. If you can't find what you're looking for, do have a look at the business hotline. You can call them anytime on 132523. Ask them your business question. If they can't help you, they'll put you onto someone who can help. Did you know that the Queensland Government, or DD, are actually on Facebook and Twitter now too? They're their 2 pages and profiles that you may like to go and have a look. Follow them, friend them, or I should say like them, and start posting to them. Tell them what you thought of today's webinar. Tell them what you'd like to see in the future. We're looking for new topics all the time. We would absolutely love it if you would give us that feedback. And one final way, as part of our contract, we do need your feedback via a survey. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. It's 5 quick questions. Jag, could you please send through the link now to everybody? And we'd love you to just take a moment. I'll leave this line open so that you can just do a quick tick and flick and tell us what you thought about today, how we can make it better, what you'd like to see next time, and we look forward to bringing you more great topics again soon. You're going to be hearing from Zoe if you are registered for the Facebook session on Thursday. Thanks for tuning in today and spending your lunch hour with me. I look forward to working with you again.